Um, lastly, about your album, I wanted to talk about Gravedigger particularly stands out to me in this sense, but I noticed that like the form of your songs are not a typical pop form. Like a lot of them don't necessarily have, like if they have a chorus, it doesn't always function as a chorus. Or it comes up in different parts of the song. But the Gravedigger particularly stands out to me as a song that it's very short too, right? Only like 2 minutes.
2 minutes,
and it's one of the best, in my opinion, on the album.
Thank you.
And just the way that it develops from beginning to end is like particularly interesting to me. So a little bit, we'll get more into the creative process later, but
okay, cool.
Can you go a little bit into your creative process in terms of like the bigger picture of a song?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll talk about my general creative process and then I'll talk about really this album. Because I really come from a background of being a singer. Like, I would consider myself a singer-songwriter, but I went to school for music production, so obviously been getting better at that skill. But I come from a place of really writing my music as a singer-songwriter, so I really just play, like, piano and basic chords. Like, I don't love to play instruments, if I'm being honest. In this album specifically, most of the songs don't really have samples, but I love using samples. Like, I'm a sample bank. Like I will never like sit here and say that it's wrong. There's some artists that like will say, oh, you're not a producer if you use samples. I'm the opposite of that. I'm like, that's what a producer is. This album doesn't really have a lot of samples. I really tried to like kind of create the sound in every song because I wanted to really like make kind of a universe, like I said before. Gravedigger was one of the songs where I tried to kind of switch up the vibe of how I normally write songs. But for this album, most of the songs were written by like me coming up with synth melodies and then writing lyrics, and the way I write lyrics is just coming up with literally random like blah blah over the melody.
I see.
And then I start to like dissect through the melody and write out lyrics and like change stuff. Yeah, so I usually come up with the melody first. But Gravedigger was one song where I actually like made the whole beat before I even wrote the lyrics, which I usually don't do. I usually like write a couple synth melodies, then I start writing lyrics immediately, and then I add the drums and other effects and stuff. Gravedigger, I like did the entire beat. And I was actually making a TikTok where I was like, oh, I'm going to make a beat today and just make a beat. And then I wrote all the lyrics after. So, like, the whole song developed that way. And that's why the Gravedigger starts with the chorus.
I see.
Because it's like, I was just, like, making a beat. Like, and then I just filled it in after. But I actually do like experimenting with structure and stuff. I don't really believe in, like, following normal like song structure, like verse, chorus, whatever. I don't even believe in that. Like I just literally write something and I feel where it's going next and I just follow where it's going. Like that's what I like to do.
So you would say most of the time you start with writing the beat and not and then you add a vocal melody and lyrics on top of it.
No, for Gravedigger that was like an abnormal thing that I did, but most of the time I've always written like that. Like I start with a chord on the piano what I used to do, but now I'll start with like melody, like synth melodies, but I won't make the entire beat before. I'll usually make a synth melody and follow the structure of the melody and start writing lyrics on it.
Gotcha.
And like start building the song slowly, and then I add drums and then I add other stuff. But that was
so you're
one
not
time.
really starting with like you're not starting with a vocal line and then like how can I accompany this? You start with a beat and then you like improvise over it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But there's been a few times where it depends on the song, but like there's been a few times where I change up the process, but that's like the general process that if I'm just bored, I'll literally sit down at my computer and just come up with synth patch like melodies and then just start writing lyrics over it. And like,
gotcha.
Yeah, that's how half this album was created.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Yeah.